Hi, I'm Gabriel and this is Learning English Path. And in this lesson, I'm going to teach you why you should read English non-fiction books. Learning English when you're reading a non-fiction book or a non-fiction article is a really great idea because you're already learning one thing, right? Why not just add another one on while you're doing it? Right? So you're reading about, let's say you're reading a science book. The benefit of reading this science book in English is that your mind is in the learning state. And anything that you learn in science, any scientific information that you learn while you're reading this book, you will attach that information to the English language. So you will have learned it in English, which means that it doubles the power of that English lesson for you, right? And it doubles the power of the science lesson as well. Whereas if you learn the lesson, if you read it in your own language, then you may have learned the science, but you haven't learned any English with it, right? And also, it might not stick as well as if you learned it in English, because the more connections that our brain can make, the better. When you are learning something new, you want to form as many connections to that new information as you can. I teach this in my course on study skills and learning strategies and memory techniques, and it's really true, especially when you're learning a new language. When you're learning English and you attach it to some new information in another subject, there are more connections there already. And if you can relate it to yourself personally in some way, that's even better, right? And just make sure that you use it after that. So let's say you have a science test in your own language. What's the benefit of learning that science lesson in English when the test is in your own language? Well, you'll be able to translate that information back to your own language, right? That's not hard. If you know, as long as you know what these words mean in your own language, which you should have a dictionary next to you anyway, as long as you know them, you'll be able to translate the information to your own language, which is an extra application that your mind can do, an extra process that your mind can go through, which is part of the learning process, right? And you'll start to think in English. And anytime that you are talking about this new information with someone, even in your own language, you've got it in your mind as something you learned in English. Okay, and so you'll be thinking about that in English when you're talking about other things. It's also, of course, a great way to expand your vocabulary. And with grammar, usually with nonfiction books, the grammar is a little bit more reliable than reading a fiction book, right? Because if you watched my video before on fiction books, reading fiction to learn English, you'll remember that the dialogue can be a little bit unreliable sometimes if you're wanting to learn grammar. But in this case, it will probably be reliable as long as you have a good nonfiction book. And keep learning about something. You can keep learning about this in your own language as well. Once you read about, let's stick with science. Let's say you read about something in science, and then it really sparks your interest and you want to go learn about it more in your own language, then that's fine. And then there's something called that I call the pendulum path of learning English, where you learn something in English and then you go learn more about it in your own language. And then you get interested in that even more, and then you decide to do the next part of your research in English. And then you do the next part of it in your own language, and you swing back and forth like this, and pretty soon you're learning all of this new English language along with the thing that you're interested in. So you can use your interest in your own language to spark your interest in the English language as well. All right? If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you click that bell so that you know when I publish a new free lesson here on YouTube. And if you want to learn English with songs, then don't forget to click the link in the description to get my free PDF guide to 101 songs to learn English. I have hundreds of exercises for you to study English, English grammar, English vocabulary, English idioms, practice your English listening, and even your speaking while listening to the very best songs to study English with. All right. And when you get it, then you also get my weekly email with 5 words of the week, where I teach you another 5 words every single week so that you continue to take your English language learning to that next level. All right, my friend, I'm Gabriel Wallace. Keep learning and keep going.